B-17 41-24464 appears only for few seconds in the raw footage of William Wyler's documentary The Memphis Belle. The aircraft was named Excalibur and was transferred from the 306th Bomb Group to the 91st Bomb Group on February 20, 1943. The footage seen on screen here was taken on February 26, 1943. Within a week, Excalibur would fight its way back toward England. Excalibur was one of 20 bombers of the 91st Bomb Group sent to attack the railroad station and marshalling yard at Hamm, Germany, on March 4, 1943. Unknown to its leader, Major Paul L. Fishburne, the 305th Bomb Group and the 303rd Bomb Group had already returned to base because of heavy cloud layers near the Dutch coast. The 91st Bomb Group continued on alone, with 16 B-17s fighting against the Luftwaffe. Excalibur, piloted by Lieutenant Alan Brill, had been under fighter attack since crossing Holland on return flight. What happened next was later recorded in the 91st Bomb Group history record. Their aircraft was subject to some of the most vicious attacks made by the Germans upon any plane in the formation. By the time they had reached the German coast on the way out, 3 of their engines had been shot out, and the remaining engine was not sufficient to keep the aircraft in formation. Before long, further attacks by German aircraft forced Lieutenant Brill to ditch in the icy waters of the North Sea. The sea was rough, and after bouncing off one wave, the aircraft broke in two on the next swell. It is thought that when the airplane broke into amidships, Staff Sergeant Morgan was rendered unconscious and thrown from the ship. Efforts to locate and rescue him were unavailing. Lieutenants Brill and Lowry were the last ones to leave the airplane after it began to break up, and refused to save themselves until after the other combat crew members had safely entered their dinghies. The high wind soon carried the dinghies out of reach of these officers, and also the other combat crew members attempted to save them. They had sacrificed themselves to make sure that the surviving members of their crew would reach safety. Those who were secure in the dinghies still had a difficult time, and were not picked up by rescue craft until after they had spent approximately 16 hours in their rather perilous condition. 7 members of Lieutenant Brill's crew, who were picked up by Air Sea Rescue Service, suffered from shock and exposure, and were not fit to return to duty for many days. The group history record was found in the individual deceased personnel file of Lieutenant Alan Brill. A more detailed report about this incident can be found on my B-17 website. The footage seen at the beginning of this video was filmed on February 26, 1943, according to the crew load list for that day. The crew included Lieutenant Alan Brill and his co-pilot, Lieutenant Alan W. Lowry, as well as Lieutenant Robert F. Brubaker, the Bombardier, and Technical Sergeant William G. Dickson, engineer and top turret gunner. This photograph was taken after the surviving crew members returned to base at Bessingbourne, England. The individuals in the photo are First Lieutenant Robert F. Brubaker, Bombardier, Technical Sergeant William G. Dickson, engineer and top turret gunner, Technical Sergeant Edwin L. Barber, tail gunner, and Lieutenant Rollin P. Ball, Navigator. 2 of them would not survive the summer of 1943.